Hey guys, it's your girl Samura Jones, your emotional restoration coach. Welcome to the Shattered Whole podcast, where we talk, feel, and heal together by doing what? By acknowledging our hurts, claiming our healing, and living as a new creation. I am so glad that you are joining us for another week, for another time together to talk and just to go through some things and journey together, right? I'm super excited. I have my guest today. You see her, you see her, you see her. It is my girl. Her name is Jade Chenault. And I'm super excited to talk to her really about a conversation that we have often. And I thought it would be an amazing experience for all of us to kind of join in, make it a community conversation, if you will, right? Where we talk a lot about who we are as women, but then how many titles are then tied to us, right? And then what those titles bring, whether they're joy, whether they're weight, whether they're negative, or maybe sometimes we're just struggling with the title. Not bad, not good, but struggle. And I think it was important to just kind of bring it to the community, if you will, right? So, but first, go on, talk to him, Jade.
Hello. Hi, I am Jade Chenault. Like Samura has said, I am originally from Orlando, Florida. I am a wife, a mother, an entrepreneur, a daughter, a friend. I got a lot of titles. So this will be a good conversation.
Yeah. And I'm first of all, and thank you for doing this. I know this is not necessarily your comfort zone, but I think there is something magical when we can be kind of nervous and transparent at the same time, because this is what it is that we are going through and what we experience normally, right? So being able to talk through those things, you know what I'm saying, and go through those things really makes it an amazing experience when we can lean on each other.
Right.
Yeah. So one of the things that I want to go title by title.
Okay.
Right? I want to go title by title, and you'll see like they're merge in some different places, and they overlapped, and sometimes one gets more attention than the other one, which causes the other one to be a little bit jealous. Ooh. And I know it's weird because we're talking about titles within the same person, but there's some starvation that happens sometimes on one element of yourself when you're feeding one title but not the other. So let's start off with, who is Jade as a woman? Like, who is she?
Jade as a woman, that is a complex thing. Just like most women, that is a multifaceted question. I think me as a woman, I am someone who is very caring, nurturing at heart. I am a woman who loves a good laugh. I love to be humorous. I love to be around my family. I love to impart joy as a woman, and I think my job is to also be a peacemaker as a woman, just to be that person who sets the tone, as a woman. And yeah, I just think being a woman is an amazing title. It comes with weight, because sometimes you got to know when to say things and when not to say things, when to show restraint and when not, when to use your voice and know when to use it and how to use it and be responsible with that. And so, yeah. That's me as a woman.
Yeah, okay, you hit a lot, right? And I like to break stuff down. So I love as human beings in general, right? We have these layers to us. We have these, not everyone is the same. We have these complex things, but you have this recipe of your life experiences and who you decided to be that cultivated the person called Jade.
Yeah.
Right? So this woman, she's a nurturer, she's kind, she loves to laugh, she loves to have a good time. My experience with her is she's transparent, she's honest, you know what I mean? And she asks the questions, which I love, which is my favorite part of her. I tell her all the time, I love Jade because Jade is going to ask the questions from the most basic level. You trying to be complicated, you trying to be all up there. And she was like, but what's this here? Why is this? What are we doing it for? Why you pick that color? She wants to understand the psychology behind what it is that you're doing, because she goes, I get the big picture, but can you take me to the basics, and you will always find what you miss when you listen to a question that Jay gives, and which is why I thought it was a fantastic idea to have her on the show, because she always helps me fill in the cracks. And you need someone like that on your team. You need someone on your team who can see your vision, but they can also see the cracks in your vision. And she is a supporter that will help fill in the gaps. So you said that you are a nurturer, and I think that this goes into that, right?
Yeah.
As a woman, you said I'm a nurturer. I believe I'm a peacekeeper, and I love to have like a good time in all of these things, just as like a woman. But before you became a woman, you were a girl, right? So can you tell me a little bit of like how you grew up? Because I think that has a huge influence on how you even got to the recipe of the Jade that you are now.
Yeah. I grew up very Southern upbringing. My parents are older. And so I got some of that old school rearing with all the great things and some of the not so great things. I was born in a generation where being very loud and sometimes very opinionated wasn't always the best thing to be as a woman. We're meant to be seen and not heard. And so I think as a young child, I spent a lot of time like stifling my personality to kind of blend in and not make people feel uncomfortable, because in my family, if you were different, it was a little uncomfortable. Like, we didn't address different personalities. It was kind of like everybody needs to kind of tote the company line. Like, you know, we all are going to be people pleasers. We're all going to be quiet. We're all going to be very polite people. And not to say some of those things are bad, but when they're ingrained in you so hard, sometimes you kind of lose your own personality in those things. And so as a woman, I'm like actually fighting to get that child back, like, you know, that childlike personality. So yeah, like just growing up, I mean, I had 6 siblings. I had three biological, you know, related siblings, and then I had 3 step siblings, and then I had some other half siblings with my dad. So I had a very blended family. And when you have that many kids, you kind of get lost in the mix of things. You're almost like a number. Like, you know, I was the youngest, and so that was interesting too, because I think you have to mature a little quicker as the youngest, because your siblings don't want to hang out with the little kid if they're acting a certain way. So it's like, you know, you kind of got to be a little more cooler, a little. You learn things quicker, you pick up on things quicker. And so I think that's kind of a tribute to the woman that I am now, in good ways and sometimes not so good ways, because I am now learning how to get back to that little girl who was very opinionated, very, you know, out there and talking and loud, and, you know, and restrained too at times. You know, sometimes that is a place, but I want to get back to that child version of me, that freedom of, you know, before your parents told you who you were supposed to be. Ooh. That's where I want to get back to. That's who I want to get back to.
Yeah, I love that you said 3 things, and I'm gonna hit them all. Listen, so I love that wanting to. Let me say this better. I'm a component of healing the child within, so that you can mature that person and that everyone's on the same playing field. So that you don't have the child in you tearing up stuff in the adult's life. Right? And finding your voice, being able to recognize that finding your voice now means that you have to talk and deal with the little girl so that the woman can have the freedom and the freedom of expression that she's desiring now. Because before, people pleasing meant suppression, but now your people pleasing may have turned into nurturing. So how do you learn the difference? How do you learn the difference between your nurturing and your people pleasing? And still implementing in the freedom of using your voice. In the midst of that without like it getting too muffled. Or is that even possible?
And I think, like, I always say this about my childhood. Like, Mama, I love you. You did an amazing job.
Yes, you did, Mama.
I'm gonna put that, precursor. But everybody has something that was missed. And so I think for me, I was raised to be a great child and not a great adult. So that's always like my main. Like, if I can put it in a nutshell, that's my main thing. Like, I was polite. I was yes ma'am, no ma'am. But now that I'm a whole adult with a husband and a wife, I don't always have to be the yes ma'am, no ma'am. Oh, okay, it's fine. Like I have to break out of that a little bit more and finding my voice as an adult woman can be, tricky.
Girl, this is why. Do you see? I just want you to understand my joy and excitement that is happening right now. Because she said, I was raised to be a good child and not an adult. My son cannot stand the fact that I tell him that I'm raising him to leave and to be a man. Because I think he wants me to raise him to be a child so that he can have all of the benefits of just being a child. I was like, but I will do you a disservice if I don't raise you to be a man. If I don't raise you to be off on your own and understand the importance of that. And then our parents, and I'm glad that you said it to Mama, she knows that you did the best that you could. But what we're recognizing, here's the thing, we're recognizing that our parents always wants us to be the next and better version. But what that means is figuring out what didn't work as well as when we were kids and what's not feeding the person who we have decided that we want to be. Right? So you're going through those processes of finding out what methods did not work or didn't serve you, and then having to parent the younger you in areas that your parent wasn't able to do so. And so this layer of being a woman, this title of just being a woman, means that I take an internal inventory.
Always,
right? Always. I'm taking an internal inventory of what works and what doesn't work from child to adult. And I think that your willingness to even do that, because I know some people are hearing that and be like, I'm already exhausted. I'm already exhausted by what you guys are saying because it sounds like too much, but I'm always going to tell you how much you're worth the sweat equity. You're always worth the emotional sweat equity to become the you that you desire to be. I want to just say this real quick. There are going to be times on this podcast that you hear cars going by because this is real life out here in these streets. So please forgive my background, okay? But we out here. We in here. So going through how important it is to take that self-inventory, right? It can feel overwhelming, but we recognize it's an important step. It's necessary in order for us to really develop into the women who we want to become. And when we're doing that healing, and I just want to make sure that I state this, when you're reflecting back like on your childhood, there are some things that you want to do differently or that you don't necessarily agree with now that you have a opportunity to know better. I think sometimes we're really hard on our parents, and that's why I'm glad that you said to your mom, no, you were a great mom, you were wonderful. But we have this opportunity to have access to things that our parents didn't have access to.
Right.
And we also have freedoms that our parents didn't necessarily have the freedom culturally or in our education or learning in order to do, or the space to do it, right? Because mom could have just been overwhelmed with how many kids that she had at the time, the space that she was dealing with the environment that she was in, or it just didn't occur to her that that was a way to, to do things. But now you having the benefits of her labor,
Right.
having the benefits of what it is that she put forth, you're now recognizing that, hey, there's some shortcomings or some hindrances that I have in the way that I function emotionally that requires me to do some healing of that younger me so that I could really have freedom in my language, as a woman, not because I don't want to nurture.
Right.
And not because I don't want to please the people that I am around in a way that is loving and caring. I just don't want to do it in a way that's abusive to me.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So talking through like the womanhood and going there, but guess what? You went ahead and got another title. You became a wife.
Very young.
Very young. Talk to me about the decision to want to get married and then becoming now the wife.
I always wanted to be married. Like, that is so funny. I literally, my entire life, I was always like, I'm going to get married at 21. Everybody's like, girl, you don't even know what that means. Like, but I just always had this desire to want to be in marriage. I thought marriage was beautiful at a young age. And so I met my husband in college. We were both working at the club at that time. We weren't really seeking God. We weren't.
In the club. No.
No, yes. Who says you can't find love in the club? No, but yes. So we were in the club. We were, living our lives. It was a good time. We were partying. We were having a great time, and we really enjoyed our lives. But it was not honoring God. And so, my mom, back to her, shout out to her. She would always tell us as young children, if God is not at the center, it's gonna crumble. Of your marriage, of any relationship, he'll rip it apart before he allows you to put somebody else in his place.
Oh.
And so she scared that in us. I was like, I'm not gonna have a marriage without God. He's gonna come and rip this apart. And so me and him kind of, as we started to go to church a little bit more and we started to slow down with the partying and things, we really looked at our relationship, and it was something we wanted to be saved. And we realized the only way to save it was to honor God with our relationship, because we were already living together. We were already doing the things. Baby was getting the milk for the free. But I love her. But we wanted to put a commitment behind our lifestyle because we knew that God wasn't pleased with it. And instead of us, kind of just being like, oh, this isn't God honoring God, we're going to scrap it. God kind of spoke to us and said, no, I'm going to do a new thing in it. I'm going to show you guys how to honor me, and you can still keep this. Sometimes you do have to give some things away, but sometimes God does give you the desires of your heart. And I think I knew that I had met my husband. We just weren't honoring God at the time. So we decided to make this bold step, y'all. We went to the courthouse, $127, the best $127 me and my husband have ever spent. We went to the court. Oh, go ahead. Note. Where my camera at, folks? Right here. Note. It is something amazing about a courthouse wedding. I don't care what nobody say. I get it. I know it is an amazing, exciting dream to do the big and lavish wedding, and the average wedding goes for around $30,000 to $40,000 to $50,000 when you could buy a whole house for that. And here's the thing: I am also guilty of spending crazy cash on a wedding. And the thing is, we invest so much in the wedding. Yet we do not put $30,000 into the therapy, counseling, wise counsel that we need in order to sustain the marriage that we go for. I just wanted to drop that too, but go ahead, continue. No, and I do think God blessed us for starting small. So, like I said, so fast forward, we're 7 years in now. And that's my best friend. Like, I wouldn't have traded that for nothing in the world. Like, everyone thought we were so crazy. Like, everyone's like, you are 21 years old. You are ruining your life. Like, we had so many people speak so, like, ill of our decision. But we just knew that we were honoring God. And we knew it was a bold and, like, a step that wasn't normal. And we were okay with that. Like, me and him were both like, you know, we want this, but we want God. And we know we can't have this without him. So we even had to, like, repent. Like, we were like, listen, God, okay, we coming together. And we're going to say, listen, we sorry. Like, we know we was out here wilding out. But we want to give you our lives. You know, can you come and do a new thing into our relationship? And he did. Like, the blessing, that was the biggest blessing of my entire life outside of salvation was meeting Tyron, him being even mature enough at 21, because we were both 21, you know, to get married. And so far it's been an amazing ride, and it's been a growth. Yeah. So we started small, but it's continued to grow. And I just can't imagine where it'll be, you know, in the future. So
yeah. Yes. And I love that that I do think it would be scary. I'm not going to lie. If my son came to me at 21 and was like, Mom, I'm getting married. You're like, Negro, what you do? What you say?
No, yeah.
But I think it spoke a lot to your mindset of where you stated that you were, that you knew that you wanted the relationship, but more than that, you wanted God to be honored.
Yeah.
And there is something, there's something special about understanding the importance of honoring God, and you can't desire to honor God, do what you need to do that, and then he not honor you.
Yeah.
Like you just can't get out of that, especially when you are going to do what it is that he has instructed you to do. And not just because you got in trouble, and not just because like it was the thing to do, but it was, if we're going to have this, God first, then us, and we'll build from there.
Right. And
the sequence of talking things out, understanding what you're willing to do for it, growing in it. And you said 7 years in, which means that there was a lot that has changed in you.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
From 21 to now what, 28?
Yeah.
Right? First of all, I feel a little old in the street. I'm just like, I feel a little old in the streets because I'm definitely a decade up, but that's okay. That's okay. So becoming a wife, making that decision, and then dealing with the titles of that. How does your woman and your wife get along?
They are in constant battle. I think the woman that I am can tend to be very reactive. She is, anything that comes her way, she ready to swat it, shoot it down, whatever the case may be. But as a wife, I think you have to mature to a place. Like, I always hear this comment or this statement. Sometimes a wife has to get behind her husband and duck so that the Lord can hit him. You know what I mean? And hush, you know? And so I think the battle is learning to be silent. And we don't like that word, but there's a strength in silence. And it's not saying that we're going to be passive and just let everything go.
Correct.
But our work then has to shift into prayer.
Correct.
And we kind of have to go to God and be like, hey, listen, let me tell you about your son. You know what I mean? Like, I can't get him how you can get him. I can't speak to him how you can speak to him. You have designed him. You know how he works.
Right.
So I need, so we need some help in this area. And I think that's the best part about keeping God first, is just realizing that, one, as the woman, I don't have all the answers. Yes. And I want to have all the answers, and I want to beat him over the head on what I think is best.
Right. Oh, yes.
Because as a woman, we have our thoughts, and they may be right. But if I go about it the wrong way, then I'm still wrong. Yes. And so that's where we battle, because I may be right, but the woman wants to handle it wrong. And then the wife is kind of like, girl, just relax. We're going to get to that place. Right. Because he still has to grow into his title as a man, because he's still 28 with all of these titles. And, stepping into being a provider and a protector, that's a huge role for Tyron. Yeah. And that's not a weight that I carry. So correct. I can't critique his weight that I don't get to carry. Just
Right.
like he can't critique my weight because we both don't carry each other's
The same
weight.
weight.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad that you are able to make distinctions in those spaces, and then recognizing when you need to check what side of self.
Right.
Right. And I love that you said that there's times that I need to be quiet, and it's not a degrading thing. And I would even go so far as to say that it is an example of wisdom. Right? Because not just as a wife or as a woman, as a person, it is important to know when silence is wisdom.
Right.
One, because you said, I might be right, but you might be wrong. And even if you are right, if it's not received, then you're in a battle where no one hears.
Right. Right.
So who's the winner? And have you recognized that that this, as a wife, that being the winner doesn't mean that I won?
Right. No, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're fighting for something bigger, I think you're fighting for that 50-year marriage, that 25-year marriage. So that's what you're fighting for. So the small arguments don't trump that. So you know what I'm saying? So I think in those abilities, sometimes, like, I've had moments with Tyron where I've won the fight and lost, and I could see that I lost trust, or that I lost an open space, or that I lost a safe space, that I'm going to have to now work to regain that territory because I was reactive.
Yeah.
And because I was like, he ain't finna just play me like no sucker. Like, I got something to say.
Right.
And it's like, girl, you don't have to always say what's on your mind.
Yeah.
Just because, and I've always been the type, like, I am very emotionally driven. And that can be to your detriment a lot of times, because sometimes if something comes to my mind, I'm like, I gotta say it.
Yeah.
And the maturity of where I'm like trying to go in my journey is saying, you don't have to say it. You know, it's enough to, sometimes stuff will come out in the process of what's happening. And so just giving myself that grace to realize, and give my husband that grace to realize he's going on his own journey, and I can't give him every piece of it. And I can't force feed him every piece. And like I said, sometimes I'm wrong too.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I'm so right, and God is like, that's not what I need for him to do as a man. And so sometimes I have to fight the urge to kind of tell him how to be a man in our relationship, because I don't know what it means to be that.
And that's another thing. I, as a woman and as a wife, I think that there are moments in time as we are discovering our voice, right? Because now the little girl in you had a voice when she was younger that was stifled, and now as a woman you are learning to have your voice even in your marriage, and having to navigate the space where you're healing her while giving her the freedom to be, but at the same time now applying wisdom of your age and your experiences to let her know that she doesn't have to wreck everything in order to do so,
or to be heard. I don't have to stomp to be heard. And I think sometimes we think loud is heard. You know.
I just wanted to make sure that we put that out there. Sometimes we think loud is heard. Because you are puffing up your chest, screaming, yelling, it doesn't mean I hear you. It doesn't mean he hears you, she hears you. That's with your mother, that's with your cousin, that's with you. Being loud does not mean that I heard you, or you using condescending tone.
Oh, Jesus. Help us.
Using condescending tone means that I hear you, or you sound, more right. You don't. What it sounds like is you're inconsiderate. What it sounds like is you're not compassionate. What it sounds like is there's only room for one voice, and why should I share mine if your voice is the only one that matters? Right? So going through these levels of I'm the child that became the woman that became the wife became a mom.
Yes, a mother of two.
Of
I
two.
have a 3-year-old and I have a 1-year-old, Taj and Riley, a boy and a girl. And that was, I think, the biggest shift for me. Because I just did not expect motherhood to come in like a wrecking ball that it came in. Hormonally, I was off, and I changed as a person in a major way. And for the first time, this was something that me and Tyron couldn't walk together. So what I was feeling, so I even experienced postpartum depression and anxiety with both my kids. And he couldn't walk me through that road. And so for the first time, like, I was experiencing something that he kind of had to watch.
Wow.
And I had to work through it. And I think, I always say this, I don't know if this is, anybody has done this research, but if you want to, go right for it. But I do think sometimes when you've experienced trauma as a young child and it's gone untalked about or undealt with, once you have that kid, it's in your face. You know what I mean? Because you then see yourself as that little girl and you become that, wanting to protect that child from all of the hurt and all the stuff that you experience.
Oh, for sure.
And you start to kind of realize that some of the stuff you experienced wasn't correct. And so I found myself not really even feeling like I could do the title of being a mom, to be honest with you. So many people made it seem so easy and so, you just see moms and they're killing it. Moms really kill it, but in the background of it, there is pure chaos sometimes. You know what I mean? It's organized chaos.
Yes.
And I didn't know that was the background for everybody. So I just thought I was floundering. I'm like, I cannot do this motherhood thing.
Yeah.
And my husband, like I said, he was just like, I want to help, but I don't know why she's sad. I don't know why she's not excited about her kids. And it's also one of those things where you're so blessed so you don't want to complain. But you feel something.
Yeah.
You know, you don't feel like you're adequate, or you're feeling something that's real. And I'm not happy right now. Like, everyone's like, you have your perfect set. You have your boy, your girl, you have everything. And it's like, yeah, but if you don't do the work inside, you still won't even see it. And I remember even with my therapist, because with the postpartum, I actually went and seeked out professional therapy.
Yes. Amazing.
And the first thing I said is, I think I have a beautiful life, but my anxiety and depression won't let me see it. So that was it. That was where I was. So go ahead.
I'm sorry, you can't just be hitting me with wrecking balls and then just keep going like you didn't do it. Okay. Listen here. That is such a, I just want to pause. Like, I don't want to, like, I don't be wanting to run through stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Because that is I think the best way that I've heard it put. And because there is an accumulation of things that are happening.
Right.
On the one hand, you are feeling guilty for not appreciating the blessing of, you have a wonderful husband, you have great children, but your anxiety and your depression is louder than your experience here. And your experience that you're having with your hormones. Those hormones are taking over in such a way that it is dampening and stealing moments of joy away from you. And it almost feels like you're on the outside of your body.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone else is living your life story and you're in the corner with the hood over your head, wanting to just kind of just like,
and you're no longer the person that you were. So that was the hard part for me too, because I was then, like, I was doing the work to kind of discover who I was as a wife and as a woman, and then the motherhood title came, and then that completely changed. Like, my hormones changed. The way I was wired completely changed for me. I didn't like the same things that I used to like, and I didn't want to be around certain things anymore. Like, I just became a totally different person after motherhood, and trying to then figure out who that person is. That is a hard journey back, because then you're all like, you're kind of like, well, then who am I?
Yeah.
And you're having this whole crisis while a little one is waking up every 2 hours to feed. And so then you're frustrated because you're getting lack of sleep, and then you're lashing out on your kids, and you're doing things that you wouldn't normally do. Like, mothers shouldn't do this to their kids. You're supposed to be loving. You're supposed to be kind. And then the mother guilt comes in.
Yes.
And then you're feeling like you're not good enough, or you failed them at 6 months. You already think you done failed as a mom. You think you crashed and burned. They got a whole life. And at 6 months, I ruined them.
I done did it. I messed them up.
Bring them back. I'm not qualified.
They're gonna remember every aspect of this. They're gonna know that I forgot to change this diaper a little bit sooner than I needed to.
Right.
They're gonna know that I took a nap when I should have been folding laundry. They're gonna know that that I didn't do all these things, and these kids is twiddling their thumbs on the side.
Yeah.
Ain't paying you no mind. No mind. And I think that we're really just kind of now getting to the place where women are speaking more out loud about this aspect of their existence. Because I like that you said that you saw that women were out here killing it and they were out here doing it, but behind the scenes, they're falling apart.
Right.
Like, as much as women talk, we don't talk the way that we should in transparency about our downward areas, not in a way where we're trying to be judgmental to each other, but just to know that our humanity is not the only experience that is being had. Like, feeling like you are experiencing depression and anxiety and not really feeling connected to your kids the way you want to do, or showing up emotionally in your life the way you want to, because your whole body has changed and you're looking at everybody else who's at the park with their kids having a great time, and you're just like, F these swings.
Right. I don't want to do this no more.
I don't want to do this.
No.
I don't want to do this.
Right.
And then it goes into the weight of all of these titles. And though there's beauty in all of these titles, I think, because I am one, right? That being a woman is an amazing honor that God has allowed me to be.
You're right.
You know, I think that being a wife is an amazing honor that God has allowed me to be. I think that being a mother is a great honor that God has allowed me to be. I go, and yet with that, just because it is a beautiful thing, it does not mean that it does not come with trials, tribulations, evolution, and experiences that have us at a place where we really need to acknowledge some hurts. Right. We need to claim some healing that we want to see and that we hope to kind of grow into. Because not every claim is right away, right? Sometimes you're speaking things and then you need to grow into it, or even find out if you really do want that. Right? Because the things that you think about, the prayers that you prayed when you were younger, you were grateful that God didn't answer. Right? You're like, ooh, glad you passed that one bad, and go. And then now you're like living in your life, right? You're living with a renewed mindset. So like, even though you still have a long journey ahead of life as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, and then you threw entrepreneurship in there.
And that was the second hardest thing that I have done. I think because entrepreneurship, the title sounds so amazing. But what they don't tell you about is when you mess up, when you're embarrassed that it doesn't work out the way you want it to, when it's not an instant success, when you have to take pauses, when you have to take breaks, entrepreneurship is nothing but 24/7 problem solving. And if you're not a good problem solver, you have to build that area then to even be a good, entrepreneur. So even now, like, I'm just taking the pieces back and saying, Jade, you have to do some personal development to even have this title. You don't get to just have the title without doing any preparation or any work. So, and that's hard to sit with, because everybody wants to be an instant success. Everybody wants that as soon as you start the business, it's amazing, everything runs well. But
you went viral and sold $100 million.
Yes, but and then we started in 2020, then COVID hits. And if that wasn't a whole thing. There's still probably research that is going to go out on what this time period was for everyone.
Correct.
And then you dealt with deaths. And then I had a child after that. So I was literally sitting in my business like, should I keep it or discard it? Like literally, is the titles of wife, mother, and woman too much to even delve into something new? And delve into something that I felt God was calling me to do. And if I can be completely transparent, like you said, when it didn't pop off the way I thought it was, embarrassment and shame hit, because it was just another Nick saying, you're not good enough. You don't have it. You can't do all of these things at once. And it's taken me time to kind of do that self-talk. And it's like, everything doesn't have to be an instant success.
Yeah.
Some things have to be a process. And guess what? If you embrace the process, I'll probably learn more of what I need to be a better business person, a better wife, a better mom. But you have to lean into those things.
Correct.
And not be so afraid of when it doesn't do as well as you wanted it to do, or it doesn't pop off like you wanted it to. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a part of your journey. It just means you need to do the work.
Correct. I think it's important to lean into understanding the importance of the process.
Yes.
Right? Skipping the process means that you skip all of the lessons that give you the ability to sustain.
Right.
If you do not go through the hardships, you won't be able to understand what it takes to cultivate your team. Being able to problem solve when you have ambiguity within your team, because eventually you'll grow from you to a team. Being able to understand the taxes, being able to understand incorporations, being able to understand what you can do online and what you can't do online, or what you shouldn't put online. Being able to go through these processes as an entrepreneur, they're really seen in the same processes that you take as being a woman, being a mother, being a wife. Like, there's times where you have to be quiet and listen. There's times where you have to be intentional about your communication.
Right.
There's times where you have to find out where you need to create something that never existed before.
Right.
And then there's times that you need to get help and resources and counsel and all of these things that go into it. Like, skipping the process means skipping your success. It is skipping the process means creating the space for your downfall in a different way, right? Because failure is really just an opportunity for you to learn. But you walk yourself into failure faster when you're not willing to do the work, because then you don't know how to take the failure as a stepping stone. The failure becomes your final destination. So I think that we gave the folks a lot to think about and to chew through. And I just want to thank you for your transparency. I want to thank you for being just honest about each level. And we just kind of like touched on it and hit on it. And I'm grateful that you are on my team. I am grateful that as we are, because she is on my team for Feel, for Shattered Whole, and everything that we do, and being able to have these conversations and grow and evolve and hear and heal together allows us to really be intentional about the way that we are aiding people in acknowledging each stages of life. Because some things are not like these tragic experiences. Like, some things are just like, my day-to-day is really taking a toll on my mental, is really taking a toll on whether or not I feel like I can do these things. And here's what you found out: that you could, and that you can do it well, and that your children love you, and that they are amazing children. No, these babies are amazing babies, and an amazing husband. Hey, bro. Just a great human being. And it is a honor and pleasure to see that you guys grow and thrive, and that you meet challenges together. You know what I mean? You're like, listen, I don't like you right now. You don't like me right now. We gonna work this out.
Right.
And making those decisions, or being like, I feel like something trying to get in here, and then y'all champion it together.
Right.
And then you're cheerleading each other. Like the way you guys support one another is phenomenal. And being around you inspires me to take a second to pause, to listen, and not to be overwhelmed by my titles. So I thank you for helping me with my titles, so that I can thrive and that I can be your emotional restoration coach. So listen, I am so glad that you took the time to listen, to grow. I love to hear your thoughts. I love to hear your titles and your struggles and your triumphs of different things that you're experiencing, whether you are a man or a woman, or you are a father or a mother, you are a husband or a wife, you were a CEO, you're a director, whatever it is that you do. I would love to be a part of your healing journey. So just remember that I see you, that I am listening, and that I love you. God bless.